Hello, it's time for the 2021 book battle. So the books that I read in 2021 in here, we're gonna see who comes out on top. When I went through and wrote down all of these little pieces of paper, I'm very interested to see how this will turn out. So Whirlwind, which is book 5 in the Dreamhouse Kings series, versus the ABC Murders. I'm gonna go with the ABC Murders. The Abduction, which is book 2 in the Kid Lawyer series, against Going Postal. Going Postal, that's Terry Pratchett. We've got Shattered Castle, book 5 in the Ascendant series, versus The Last Guardian, which is Artemis Fowl, book 8. So we're gonna go with Shattered Castle because I really like that series. The Well of Ascension, Brandon Sanderson. I don't remember this book, but I remember that I did not like it. So, or maybe that's a bit strong. I just didn't care for it. And Now You're Speaking My Language, which is Christian nonfiction, and it's on my favorite shelf. So we're going with Now You're Speaking My Language. Aftermath, which is Terry Blackstock versus Sir Dalton and the Shadow Heart. We're going to go with Sir Dalton. That's part of the Knights of Aerith Trey series by Chuck Black, which I really enjoy. We've got Where Shadows Meet, Colleen Coble versus The Princess Pact, which I believe is Melanie Sellier. We're going to go with The Princess Pact. No Such Person, which is Caroline B. Cooney, and it's on my favorite shelf, versus To Best the Boys, which is Mary Weber. And I was a little disappointed with To Best the Boys. I thought I would like it more, so we're going to go with No Such Person. The Atlantis Complex, which is Artemis Fowl book 7, versus The Hawthorne Legacy, which is part of that. I don't even remember what it's called. That you can see the cover here. It's part of a series. Let's go with The Atlantis Complex. I really like that series, and the Artemis Fowl series is on my favorite shelf also. So The Adventurers and the City of Secrets, Bookshop by the Sea, which is Denise Hunter, I think. I don't really remember The Adventurers and the City of Secrets, so we're gonna go Bookshop by the Sea. It's a contemporary romance, which isn't my genre, but I think I didn't mind that one. How Iceland Changed the World versus The Last Apothecary. Okay, I liked both of these. This is gonna be a hard one. They both kind of feel like on par with each other in my head. They're very different. One is nonfiction, one is historical fiction. I think I'm gonna go with How Iceland Changed the World. We've got Librarian of Boone's Hollow and Dan TDM, which is a graphic novel. I didn't care for that one, and I loved Librarian of Boone's Hollow, so that one's going up there. Thief of Blackfriars Lane versus Solway. Solway is super cute, but I really enjoyed The Thief of Blackfriars Lane. Merchant's Daughter, Melanie Dickerson, and The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest, Melanie Dickerson. Aw, that's not very fair, but I love The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest, so I'm gonna love that one. Timescape, which is book 4 of the Dreamhouse Kings series, and Trader's Game. Oh, I think I remember liking Trader's Game. I'm gonna go with Trader's Game, actually. We've got Nemesis and Silvergate. What was Silvergate? We've got Monster Sisters versus Two Reasons to Run. Monster Sisters. Black Canary, graphic novel, versus Duel of Fire. Duel of Fire. Breaking the Stronghold of Food, which was a 5-star for me, and Number 1 Ladies Detective Agency, which I did like, but we're gonna go with Breaking the Stronghold of Food, and I would actually reread that one anytime now. A Snicker of Magic versus The Weed That Strings the Hangman's Back, which is book 2 of the, oh, what's her name? I'll have to look it up. The Flavia de Luce Mystery Series. Yes, okay. I actually really like that series, and I quite enjoyed A Snicker of Magic, but we're gonna go with the Flavia de Luce. 5 Total Strangers versus Raybearer. Five Total Strangers, I think. Nightmares versus The Arctic Incident, Artemis Fowl Book 2. We're gonna go Artemis Fowl on that one. Happily Ever After and Pursuit of God. Pursuit of God. The Chemist versus Sweet Boundless. Sweet Boundless. That's part of one of my favorite trilogies. Well, I like the first two more than I like the last one, but Gay Girl, Good God versus Archimaniacs. Archimaniacs is a really fun graphic novel, but we're gonna go with Gay Girl, Good God by Jackie Hill Perry. Children of Dune versus Legendary. Legendary is part of the Caraval series, and Children of Dune is part of the Dune series. I liked Legendary more, even though I do have a spot in my affections for the Dune series. Speaking of, Dune Messiah versus Hilda and the Troll. I love the Hilda graphic novels also. They're very cute. And there's a little mini TV series or whatever. I can't remember which platform. I think Netflix has Hilda TV series. Again, very different. We're gonna go with Hilda this time. Sure as the Dawn, which is my favorite book in the A Voice in the Wind trilogy. And Mysterious Favorite Styles, which is Agatha Christie. We're gonna go with Sure as the Dawn. Worst Book Ever versus Gatekeepers, which is number 3 in the Dreamhouse Kings, and I didn't like the Worst Book Ever, so. Codebreaker Kids versus Paper Wolf. I'm gonna go with Codebreaker Kids, actually. Eternity Code, which is Artemis Fowl Book 3, versus Tricked, which is also part of a series that I can't remember what the name of the series is, but I liked that series. I like both of these series. We're gonna go with Eternity Code, just because I really like Artemis Fowl. Zenobia, which is a graphic novel, versus A Captive Princess. Captive Princess. Princess and the Goblin versus Princess Companion. There's a lot of princess happening here, but definitely Princess and the Goblin. Echo in the Darkness. Oh no, Echo in the Darkness is my favorite of the Voice in the Wind trilogy. Not As Sure as the Dawn. As Sure as the Dawn is book 3 anyway. Echo in the Darkness is my favorite. Versus Clockwork Girl, which is a graphic novel. We're gonna go with Echo in the Darkness. We've got X-Venture Explorers, which was a fun shark graphic novel, versus Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I'm gonna go with Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I like the concept of that book. The Activist, which is the Kid Lawyer book 4, and versus Wholesome. I'm gonna go with The Activist. The Count of Monte Cristo versus Kid Lawyer book 1. I think I'm gonna go with Count of Monte Cristo on that one. Castle of Refuge versus Caraval. Nearing Home versus The Body. Oh, that's not nice. The Body is by Matt Haig. It's more of an educational book about the actual physical body, but with Matt Haig's like personality interwoven with it, which I really enjoyed. And Nearing Home is by Billy Graham, about like after you've lived your life and you're in like the senior retirement phase of life, what that can look like, or maybe should look like, or stuff to consider. I liked both of these, super different. I'm gonna go with Nearing Home. I liked that one quite a bit. Inkheart versus Redeeming Love. I'm gonna go with Redeeming Love, even though I do have some qualms with it. I liked it overall, I guess. I'm half sick of Shadows, which is Flavia de Luce, and Song for a Whale. I liked both of these. Let's go with Song for a Whale. Then we've got Little Women versus Scarlet by Stephen Lawhead. I think I'm gonna go with, these are tough, but not like everything's a 5-star tough. They're tough because there's a lot of mediocre books, I feel like, in 2021's reading. Scarlet or Little Women? I guess Little Women. A Red Herring Without Mustard, which is another Flavia de Luce, versus The Hobbit. The Hobbit, of course. For the Love, which was Christian nonfiction, and Get Out of Your Head, which was Christian nonfiction. Oh wow, okay. Get Out of Your Head was better. Man in the Brown Suit, Agatha Christie, versus The Haunting of Bonaventure Circus. Bonaventure Circus. All or Nothing, which is a Bird and Squirrel graphic novel, versus Gone to the Woods. All or Nothing. Bird and Squirrel is kind of fun. The Reading Life by C.S. Lewis versus Once Was Lost. Okay, I looked up Once Was Lost when I was writing these out, and I looked up like my rating for it. I looked up the synopsis for it. I do not remember this book at all. So, I mean, normally I would have gone with Reading Life by C.S. Lewis anyway, but because I actually don't remember anything about Once Was Lost. Phantom Twin, graphic novel, and The Serial Fairies, graphic novel. Serial Fairies was way better. Glasstown Game versus House of Dark Shadows, which is book 1 of the Dreamhouse Kings. I liked Glasstown Game, but I think I'm going to go with the House of Dark Shadows. Voice in the Wind and Fahrenheit 451. Oh! I mean, I'm going to go with Voice in the Wind, but I do really like Fahrenheit 451. Girl Behind the Red Rope versus City of Secrets. Girl Behind the Red Rope. The Rose Legacy, part of one of my favorite trilogies, versus Frenzy, which is book 6 of the Dreamhouse Kings. And I'm going to go with Rose Legacy. Unbirthday versus Anxious for Nothing by Max Lucado. I think I'm going to go with Unbirthday, actually. An Ivy Hill Christmas versus The Red House Mystery by A.A. Milne. An Ivy Hill Christmas, I think. All Tangled Up, Bird and Squirrel, and Seeing Red. Seeing Red. The Secret Adversary versus A Vow So Bold and Deadly. A Vow So Bold and Deadly. I did not like The Secret Adversary. The Inheritance Games versus Griffin Heist. I think we'll go with Inheritance Games. Sinner versus Dance of Steel. Let's go Sinner. Red Wolf versus Cape Refuge. Oh. We'll go with Cape Refuge. Right? Sure. African Skies versus The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Let's do African Skies. Agatha Christie's not really making it, is she? The Accused, which is Kid Lawyer Book 3, and Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I liked the Kid. I didn't mind Kindred, but I'm gonna go with the Kid Lawyer series. We've got Obsessed versus And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I think I'm gonna go with And Then There Were None. So finally an Agatha Christie made it. Malamander versus Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Oh, I really like Malamander, but doesn't beat out Seven Deaths. Five Worlds, book 4 versus The Witches. Oh, I did not like The Witches by Roald Dahl, so the Five Worlds series is gonna take it. Watcher in the Woods, book 2 in the Dreamhouse Kings versus Slumber of Christianity. I think we're gonna go with Slumber of Christianity. Hilda and the Mountain King versus Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, which is part of the Flavia de Luce. I think I'm gonna go with, has Hilda made it at all? I like Hilda. I'm gonna go with Flavia de Luce. I really like the Hilda books, but The Brotherhood versus Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The Oath versus Foundation. The Oath. Camp Whatever versus Adam. Adam. Yeah. The Actor and the Housewife versus Daughter of the Siren Queen. Let's go Actor and the Housewife. Pamela versus Black Pamela. Warrior's Curse versus Court of Swans. Court of Swans. Present Over Perfect and The Boomerang Clue. Present Over Perfect. There's quite a bit of Christian nonfiction this year, apparently. House on Foster Hill versus Thrice the Brinded Cat Hath Mewed, which is a Flavia de Luce. And I did not care for Foster Hill, so we're gonna go with Thrice. Jacob Tutu and the Dinosaur versus Monster. Giver of Stars versus the Aggie Morton book 1. Aggie Morton. Jesus by Max Lucado versus Flunked. I'm gonna go with Jesus by Max Lucado, even though I feel like his books read like Sunday morning sermon outlines to me. They're good. They're filled with really good scriptural stuff, but nothing is really like super eye-opening, if that makes sense. Screwtape Letters versus Hilda and the Midnight Giant. Aww. Once again, Hilda didn't make it. Screwtape Letters will win that one. Pilu of the Woods, beautiful illustrations, and The Masterpiece. Super different. I might go with The Masterpiece. Vanderbeekers versus Snug. Aww, I'm gonna go with Snug actually, because there were a lot of little panels in that like comic strip, I guess, that I really related with my husband and myself. The Light Princess versus Arch Enemy. The Light Princess. Princess Fugitive versus Deceiver's Heart. Deceiver's Heart. I should reread that series again, actually. The Opal Deception, Artemis Fowl Book 4, and Frankenstein, Opal Deception. Keep It Shut, another Christian nonfiction versus Finale. I liked Keep It Shut, but Finale. We'll go with Finale. The Black Hound versus Whisker Sisters. It's Hilda and the Black Hound. Yes. Okay, so finally we're gonna make, I do like the Whisker Sisters, but we need to give Hilda at least once. Breadcrumbs I enjoyed, and Story Peddler I enjoyed, but I think I'm gonna go with Breadcrumbs. I should reread Story Peddler. Daughter of the Pirate King versus Mistborn, Daughter of the Pirate King. I know, everyone is obsessed with Brandon Sanderson. Lightfall versus the original. Lightfall. A Girl's Guide to the Outback versus Matilda. I love Matilda. The Magic Factory versus Sir Rowan and the Cimmerian Conquest. We're going with Sir Rowan because it's part of the Knights of Aerith Tray. Tuesdays with Maury versus The Life of a Coat. I maybe shouldn't have put The Life of a Coat in here because it's a bit, I don't know what it would be categorized. Like, I don't think it's a graphic novel. I think it's a picture book, and I don't usually put picture books in these, so I'm gonna go with Tuesdays with Maury. Tendervine and Magic. Tendervine very strongly. Tuck versus Book Nerd. I don't think I should have put Book Nerd in here either, because I think that's more of like a coffee table kind of book. So I'm gonna go with Tuck, just for that reason. King of Mist versus Sherwood. Sherwood? It's like I'm asking you. Which one should I pick? 3 by Ted Dekker versus The Looking Glass Wars. Oh, Looking Glass Wars? Horror Store versus Minutes to Die. I think I'm gonna go with Horror Store. Uninvited, another Christian nonfiction versus Charmed, which is another book from that series. You can see the cover here. I'm gonna go with Uninvited. Off-World is the last one. Okay, round 2. The Slumber of Christianity versus Now You're Speaking My Language. Both Christian nonfictions. Yeah, both on my favorite shelf. We'll go with Now You're Speaking My Language. I love Christian nonfiction marriage books. An Ivy Hill Christmas versus The Accused, which was book 3 in the Kid Lawyer series. We'll go with that one. The Eternity Code and Haunting at Bonaventure Circus. We'll go with The Haunting. Finale versus Echo in the Darkness. Echo in the Darkness. That's the one that's going to be hard to beat. The Hobbit versus Breadcrumbs. The Hobbit. Every time I pick up The Hobbit, I know that the other one's going down. Song for a Whale versus Gatekeepers. Gatekeepers. Captive Princess versus The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest. We're gonna go with The Huntress because I love that book. A Vow So Bold and Deadly versus The Shattered Castle. Both series I like, both on my favorite shelf. I'm gonna go with A Vow So Bold and Deadly. Present Over Perfect versus Redeeming Love. Present Over Perfect. Princess and the Goblin versus Codebreaker Kids. Princess and the Goblin. And ones like Princess and the Goblin are more than likely going to make it. Like if it was pitched against The Hobbit, of course. But Aggie Morton Book 1 versus Nearing Home. Nearing Home. I'm surprised at the amount of Christian nonfiction this year though, which is really good. Court of Swans versus Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Court of Swans. Five Total Strangers versus House of Dark Shadow. I think we're going to go with House of Dark Shadows. House of Dark Shadows. Rose Legacy versus The Light Princess. I should have to double check because the third one of that series is not my favorite. And I think The Light Princess would beat it. But if it was the other two in the series, then Light Princess won't beat it. So let me just double check. Rose Legacy is book 1 of the series, and I love it. So, gotta throw Light Princess down, which is interesting. Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie versus Bookshop by the Sea. Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie. Thrice the Brinded Cat Hath Mewed, and Trader's Game. Thrice. The Weed That Strings the Hang... Oh, there's a lot of Flavia Deluce right now. Hangman's Back versus Tendervine. Tendervine is the third one. But I think I want to give it to Tendervine, actually. Between those two, I went with the Tendervine. Tuesdays with Maury versus Screwtape Letters. Screwtape Letters. That's kind of interesting because those are both kind of epistolary. The Oath and No Such Person. No Such Person. Sweet Boundless, also part of that trilogy, versus Atlantis Complex, book 7 of Artemis Fowl. But we have to give it to Sweet Boundless. I love that series. The Black Hound, which is Hilda, if we remember from last round. And The Activist, which is the Kid Lawyer book for Hilda. Pursuit of God versus All or Nothing. Pursuit of God. How Iceland Changed the World and Then There Were None. Oh. I really do like How Iceland Changed the World, but I'm gonna go with And Then There Were None. Count of Monte Cristo and The Girl Behind the Red Rope. Count of Monte Cristo. Caraval versus The Arctic Incident. Caraval. Sometimes I surprise myself with like the swiftness that I've decided something. Five Worlds book 4 and The Princess Pact. Five Worlds. Sherwood versus The Opal Deception. The Opal Deception. Seeing Red versus Voice in the Wind. Voice in the Wind. Inheritance Games versus Duel of Fire. Inheritance Games. Serial Fairies versus Going Postal. What? No! Going Postal. I love the Serial Fairies, but Breaking the Stronghold of Food versus Legendary. Breaking the Stronghold of Food. Librarian of Boone's Hollow versus Unbirthday. Librarian of Boone's Hollow. Jesus by Max Lucado versus Monster Sisters. Jesus by Max Lucado. Reading Life by C.S. Lewis. Actor in the Housewife. The Reading Life. Adam by Ted Dekker and Gay Girl Good God. I think Gay Girl Good God. Thief of Blackfriars Lane versus Seven Deaths. Seven Deaths. Sir Dalton and the Shadow Heart versus Get Out of Your Head. Sir Dalton. Sir Rowan and the Camarian Conquest versus Pamela. Sir Rowan. Matilda versus As Sure as the Dawn. Matilda. Now that I realize As Sure as the Dawn was the third one, I really don't care for that one. The Host versus Looking Glass Wars. Looking Glass Wars. The Masterpiece versus Deceiver's Heart. Deceiver's Heart. Monster versus Cape Refuge. Monster. The ABC Murders versus Daughter of the Pirate King. Daughter of the Pirate King. Lightfall versus Horror Store. Lightfall. Little Women versus Tuck. Little Women. Snug versus Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We're going to go with Roald Dahl on that one. Hilda and the Troll versus African Skies. African Skies. Silver Gate versus Uninvited. Uninvited. Offworld versus Sinner. Offworld. And that's it for that round. Ready for round 3? Thrice the Brinded Cat Hath Mewed versus Now You're Speaking My Language. Now You're Speaking My Language. A Vow So Bold and Deadly versus The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest. The Huntress. The Princess and the Goblin. This is basically a throwaway round. The Opal Deception. Princess and the Goblin. And then there were none versus Librarian of Boone's Hollow. Librarian of Boone's Hollow. Going Postal. Terry Pratchett versus Nearing Home. Going Postal? I don't know what's happening. Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie and House of Dark Shadows. Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie. Deceiver's Heart versus Looking Glass Wars. You know what? The more I think about Deceiver's Heart, the more I think I really liked that book. So I'm gonna go with Deceiver's Heart. Daughter of the Pirate King versus Pursuit of God. Pursuit of God didn't get 5-star from me, but I think I'm gonna go with Pursuit of God anyway. Monster and Gay Girl Good God. Gay Girl Good God, I think. I just love Jackie Hill Perry. I need to read more of her books. Reading Life by versus Five Worlds. Reading Life. Echo in the Darkness versus Screwtape Letters. No. Honestly, I think I might do Echo in the Darkness. That's actually, I don't know, guys. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory versus The Tendervine. Tendervine. I don't know about that one either. Count of Monte Cristo versus Jesus by Max Lucado. I think I'll go with Jesus by Max Lucado. Uninvited versus Inheritance Games. I don't know. It's very hard to pitch non-fiction against fiction. We'll go with Uninvited. Lightfall versus Gatekeepers, which is book 3. Lightfall? Again, I'm not convinced about that one either. Rose Legacy versus African Skies. Rose Legacy. Little Women versus Court of Swans. Court of Swans. Present Over Perfect versus Hilda and the Black Hound. Present Over Perfect. No Such Person versus Breaking the Stronghold of Food. Breaking the Stronghold of Food. Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle versus Sweet Boundless. Evelyn Hardcastle. Haunting at Bonaventure Circus versus Sir Dalton and the Shadow Heart. What was The Haunting? Carval versus Voice in the Wind. Voice in the Wind. The Accused versus Sir Rowan and the Cimmerian Conquest. Sir Rowan. The Hobbit. There's only 3 left here, so The Hobbit and Offworld. The Hobbit. And the last one is Matilda. Next round. Pursuit of God versus Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie. Pursuit of God. Deceiver's Heart versus Gay Girl Good God. Deceiver's Heart. Present Over Perfect versus Echo in the Darkness. Echo in the Darkness. Rose Legacy versus The Haunting at Bonaventure Circus. Rose Legacy. Oh. Yeah. Now You're Speaking My Language versus Going Postal. Now You're Speaking My Language. Oh my goodness, there's so many Christian nonfictions going up there. I'm so surprised. Princess and the Goblin versus Breaking the Strongholds of Food. Princess and the Goblin. Librarian of Boone's Hollow versus Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Evelyn Hardcastle. Matilda versus The Hobbit. The Hobbit. Voice in the Wind versus The Reading Life by C.S. Lewis. Voice in the Wind. Lightfall versus The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest. The Huntress. Tendervine versus Sir Rowan. Tendervine. Court of Swans versus Jesus by Max Lucado. Jesus by Max Lucado. Uninvited is the last one. Okay. Nearing the end here. Only a handful left. Uninvited versus Now You're Speaking My Language. Now You're Speaking My Language. I don't know why we're going that way now. Pursuit of God versus Echo in the Darkness. Echo in the Darkness. Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle versus The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest. Unfortunately, fortunately, whatever, we're gonna go with Evelyn. Rose Legacy versus Voice in the Wind. Ooh. Well, Rose Legacy is the first one of the trilogy. My favorite is Sweet Boundless, which is the second one. Voice in the Wind is the first one in that trilogy. My favorite is the second one. I think I'm gonna give it to A Voice in the Wind. Princess and the Goblin versus Deceiver's Heart. Princess and the Goblin. 3 left. The Hobbit versus Tender Vine. The Hobbit. And then Jesus by Max Lucado. Is this the last round? I feel like this might be the last round. Princess and the Goblin versus 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Dun dun dun. The amount of times that I've reread both of these, I'm surprised it hasn't come up yet to have them pitched against each other. I don't stand by this choice, but the game is making me pick. So 7 Deaths. Voice in the Wind versus Now You're Speaking My Language. Voice in the Wind. The Hobbit versus Jesus. Ooh, by Max Lucado. That does not sound right. And I mean Jesus, the book by Max Lucado. I'm gonna go with The Hobbit. And then the last one is Echo in the Darkness. So we've got ourselves a top 4. So if I did it again, I would get 2, and we're just not gonna go there, I think. So surprisingly, we have Voice in the Wind, Echo in the Darkness, books 1 and 2, and then we have The Hobbit and 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which is not a surprise to have those 2 on my top. So this was fun. This was interesting. I'm surprised at some of my choices, but it was fun. It was a fun time. So yeah, that is the end for 2021's book battle. Now, if you want to watch more, there are more from previous years, and there will be more in coming years, so keep your eye on this playlist. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!